Welcome back, designers, to Kat Silvia Designs. I'm Kat, and in today's video, we are working with memory wire. Now, memory wire is very cool. It's a carbon or stainless steel that is coiled to retain its shape, kind of like a slinky, right? It is often coated with a silver plate or gold plate, but I've also seen some rose gold and antique brass as well, so lots of options to fit your design style. While there are various diameters of memory wire, what's cool is it kind of contracts and expands to fit the wearer's wrist, so there's really virtually no size. The main thing that will make a difference in your size is the size of beads you choose to use. So, for example, if you're using larger beads, you're going to have an inner diameter that's smaller. If you choose smaller beads, your inner diameter is going to be larger. And don't worry, I'm going to explain what all of that means and show you here just in a second. But I do want to point out that memory wire requires a few special tools. Now, there are a couple workarounds, and I'm going to show those to you as well, but I do want to let you know that all of the tools I'm going to be using here today are linked down below in the descriptions. Now, these are affiliate links, so please consider using them to help support this channel so I can continue to make videos for you. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in and learn all about memory wire. Let's start with the tools required when working with memory wire. Now here we have our memory wire cutters, and just for comparison, here are some regular flush cutters. Now we would use these flush cutters when we are using simple wire loops or head pins or eye pins or anything like that, or working with a smaller gauge of typically a craft wire. So that's when we would use these. Now looking at the memory wire cutters, you can see that they're much thicker, and when I turn it to the side, and kind of down the barrel there, you'll be able to see that it has a really nice thick cut. And that is because, if you remember me saying, this is a steel wire on the inside. So it's not just kind of a little plated craft wire that's 20 gauge. No. This is going to be steel wire, so we need some quality cutters. Now, the first thing I want to say is do not use your flush cutters when working with memory wire. Yes, it could possibly work, but you're going to end up kind of gnawing at that wire, kind of trying to get it to cut off. So you really don't want that to work. So let's go ahead and see these guys in action really quick. I'm going to take my cutters here, and this is just a little scrap piece of wire here. So I'm just going to come in a little bit here. Let's say I want to trim it off that much. Now you'll notice that I come in really perpendicular to that wire, just like that. I'm not cutting in at a side angle. We don't want that, okay? We're not going to get a nice clean cut, and you can already see that I'm bending the wire that way. So we want to come in right perpendicular to it, and then you should just be able to give it a little gentle squeeze, and you're going to hear a little snap, and our wire is gone. So beware of flying wire, of course, but now we have a nice cut on the end of our memory wire, okay? So that's how easy it is. Again, you don't need to use that much pressure to apply. I'll just show you one more time really quick without any beads or anything in the way. Just a nice little gentle. And I'm not going to show you on my flush cutters because I don't want to ruin them. Okay. So there are our cutters. Now the other tool that we have is we have this little kind of neat guy here. Now this is memory wire finishing pliers. And the reason for that being is because on the end of our memory wire, we are going to make two loops. And you can see that it has two little ends there. Now the smaller one is going to be 1.5 millimeters. And the larger one is going to be 3 millimeters. So what you can do is you can get consistent loops on the ends of your memory wires. And just to see the difference in those loops, let me show you a couple little examples here. So on this one, the one in the green and gold, that's the 3 millimeter. And the one in silver, that's the 1.5 millimeter. So just you can see the difference of the loops up close side by side. Okay? Now, the reason why you would want to use maybe the 3 millimeter is if you're going to hang a charm, you know, or something like that from it, because that way you can have a nice big space to do that. If you wanted to do the smaller loop, you could probably sneak a little jump ring in there. It's just a little bit smaller, but just kind of aesthetically, however you want it to look. So you have options there. Now, you can use this plier, you can use the memory wire finishing pliers, and I recommend you get this tool. It's not too expensive. I put the link down below so you can actually just get it right from Amazon. It's kind of great. But you can also use round nose pliers as well. It's going to do, in essence, the same thing. So let me show you really quick. So when we have our memory wire like this, remember this is just my scrap, you can come in, and what you're going to do is just pinch that wire at the end, right up close to the end, as close as you can get it, right? So it's just kind of peeking out just ever so slightly. and you're gonna wrap it around. And I always like to put my loops on the interior. So you can just wrap and wrap and wrap and just kind of keep bending, right? Now I do have to make a slightly larger loop on this guy here, because when you try to make a loop with the teeny tiny tip, it's not as strong as, let's say, some kind of bail making plier like this. Now let's just cut that off really quick. Okay, and now I'm gonna do one with this guy. So I'm gonna use the 3mm. So if you wanna use the 3mm, the bigger one, you want that towards the interior because that's what we're gonna be wrapping that wire around. So give it a nice good grip and wrap and just kind of twist it in and twist. And you just kind of have to work it until it comes all the way in, right? So again, you can see that that loop is pretty similar to what we just did. So we'll work with that. Again, it's just about if you want to do consistent loops. All right, now I'll really quick show you the small one here. So if you want that smaller loop, you're just gonna turn it and bend it in and just get a nice good grip on it. Bend, 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 bend. And we have our cute little tiny loop, okay? So that's what that looks like. So that is the tools that you're going to need to be making memory wire. Now, of course, if you're going to be attaching jump rings, you'll need the tools for jump rings. So you'll need some chain nose pliers or round nose pliers just to help you out with that. I do want to talk about one quick thing before we dive into fully making a bracelet, and that is the discussion about the inner diameter I had mentioned earlier. Now this bracelet uses 8mm wood beads and 8/0 seed beads, just kind of alternated in there, right? So I made about, 4 to 5 loops, I'd say, right there. And this one here uses 8/0 seed beads. Now again, same number of loops, give or take, maybe a half a loop there. But I want to point out the difference in the inner diameter. So when you're using these 8/0 beads like this, and you look, let's do it this way. And we look across, right? Let me just bring it right up to the camera there. We have about 1 3/4 inches on the inside there, right? Now when we do the same with the seed beads, we have almost 2 inches as our inner diameter. You see the difference? Now this is actually from the exact same coil, so it looks like this when you kind of start, right? But you can see that the beads really pop out and pop in off of that kind of loop there. So when you are considering what size beads to use, you have those kind of options, but don't forget that this does expand, and kind of come back to its original size. But around the wrist, it can expand, so you can get larger wrists in there as well. So that's kind of the joy of memory wire, but just something to consider. Now this is kind of a cool example. Now this is only 1.5 loops, and I kind of like to call this a memory wire bangle, because when you wear it, it just sort of sits right onto the wrist there. Now for just a little bit of perspective, my wrist is 6.5 inches, so it kind of wears kind of loosely like that. But it's not really going to go anywhere. I mean, you'd really have to tug it to like kind of get it off, But it's a really neat little thing, especially if you want to offer some, stacked bracelets or kind of add this into your design, because it kind of looks like a bangle that you don't need to actually slip on and off the wrist. I know a lot of people have trouble kind of getting bangles over their, knuckles there. So this offers kind of a cool example for your customer. Now let's get into making a bracelet. I wanted to take this design here and just switch out the metals to make a gold version here. So as you can see, I have these little rondelles, and then I have some wood beads spaced with another little rondelle, and then I have these little rondelle gemstone beads. Now these are beautiful little turquoise and wood beads, so this is a really classic combo. But as a designer, I always like to try to do things in gold and silver, see which I like better, but also see that there might be an offering because someone might like silver over gold and vice versa. So now you can offer those kind of things to your customers. So I'm going to do this version in gold. So I have my memory wire here. I have my turquoise beads. Now these ones are a little bit different. They have some more inclusions, so you can see that they're just a little bit darker. So you'll see them when they're all on their sides in the bracelet, and I'll show you side by side. I have my little gold rondelles over here. And then I have my 8mm wood beads over here. I have my 2 tools that I'm going to be using, so I am all set to go. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take our memory wire and come to one end, right? Now for this one, I'm going to use the 1.5mm loop. So what I do is I place it, the very tip of the wire, into the pliers there, just like so, and get a really good grip. And now I'm just going to bend it going in. And I'm pushing with this thumb, my left thumb there, I'm just pushing against it to allow it to be a little resistance as this little loop comes in. Just like so. And once it touches, I'm good to remove it. Okay, sorry if I got a little off camera there for you. I was trying to keep it in there. So now that I have my loop on one end, I can go to the other end here, right? And this is where I'm going to add my beads. Now, I don't like to pre-cut my memory wire just in case I get to a point where I'm like, oh, I really need an extra half a loop. So you can see that this is way more memory wire than what we're gonna need. But when you start to add your beads, so I'm gonna add one of the little gold rondelles, sorry. I'm gonna add 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, right? And then I'm going to add one more of the gold. And now I'm going to add 5 of these wood beads here. And 5. And now what you can kind of do is let it spring open. Again, kind of keep that like slinky thing. And you can just kind of shove them down there, you know. So they kind of just fall, kind of like that little child's game that, you know, you used to have. They just go all around. And, you know, you can always just kind of scooch them all down. But you don't have to do this every time, mostly because eventually if you fill it up, they'll all kind of find their way to the bottom anyway. But I want to do this because I want to show you our pattern here, right? So this is our pattern. We have 1 of the metal beads, 7 of the turquoise rondelles, 1 of our little metal color there, and then 5. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to repeat that going 6 more times, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like on the other side. So I'm finishing adding 5 wood beads. So we're gonna kind of offset the pattern here. So we started with the turquoise beads and we're gonna finish with the wood beads and then 1 final metal, I keep saying metal, it's actually Czech glass, but gold bead right there on the end. So now I'm just kind of swooping it all down through and getting it to be where I want it to sit. Now, as you start to scooch things down, you don't want your beads to be loose moving around on your memory wire. So this is where we're going to want to really kind of like try to pull and make sure that you hold it really taut there, right? So now this is what we have left over. So the distance between that last bead and where I'm going to cut it is dependent on the size of the loop. Now I'm doing a small loop, so I'm just going to kind of keep mine out here to the side. It's about a full length of the cutters away. Now I'm really pushing hard back on this little gold bead here, but what I want you to keep in mind is when you clip this, you don't want everything to go flying. So keep a good grip. Actually, I'm gonna put mine a little bit down on the table just to get a little extra leverage. You see the bracelet is on the table there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clip it off, keep holding, and come in right with those pliers right there on the end. Okay, because we don't wanna lose any beads on this. There we go. So you can see that it's really close to the edge there. So now, same as we did before, I'm just gonna turn it in, turn, 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 keeping it nice and tight as I possibly can. And we have finished with our little loop there. All right, so that is what the gold version looks like. Let me kind of get these out of the way here so you can see. So we have 2 different versions there. Now, like I said, I do know that the rondelles were a little bit different on this one here, so they're a little bit darker. But you can see this is the gold, right? And this is the silver. So kind of neat, right? Kind of neat little thing. Now, one thing you can do is when you are putting on memory wire, I like to kind of coil it around my wrist just makes it nice and easy for me. But that is how I like to have it just sort of sit, and you can move it around, you know, if you want like kind of this opening, you know, right here to be on the back of the wrist, you can do it there as well. So, but it looks like a cool little stacked bracelet look, and it's really just a neat thing, especially it allows people to try things on if you are doing like a booth or anything like that, or you can say that it fits, you know, multiple size wrists, so that kind of gives your buyer a little extra love and a little extra security when they know that they're buying something, especially as a gift. So memory wire is a wonderful gift, and it's a wonderful tool to use. Like I said, you can make it with all kinds of different things here, even little bangles and little seed beads. It's great for little mixes like that. All right, there you go, guys. That is memory wire. Thanks for watching, designers. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you have any comments or questions about any designs or anything you've seen here today, be sure to leave it in the comments section below. And don't forget to connect with me on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.